Hey everybody, David Plummer.
Michael Ferguson.
We run a company called Aerial Influence, so if this is your first time here kind of checking out what we do, we sell agricultural drones, so like the big spraying drones. We also work with police and fire departments for search and rescue drones and really all sorts of different industries that we work with. So, but today what we wanted to do is do a little video on the agricultural drones. A little later we'll get into some enterprise stuff, but what we wanted to do today was kind of give you an update on what you have to do to submit your FAA Part 137. And really, we should probably start, if these are new people, we should let them know what is the Part 137.
Yeah, so the Part 137 is basically being a crop duster. So it enables you to apply product from the air. And so it's been kind of tricky, up until now. Yeah, definitely a journey. But the FAA has been putting out more information and making it a little bit easier for us to find this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they came out with a nice PDF on how to submit a petition for rulemaking or exemption.
Yeah.
So this is basically when you have your petition written, this is where you would send it.
Yeah.
And then it would then be assigned a docket number. And from there you could then add, your additional documents or documentation that you need, whether it's like operations, training, safety case, that kind of stuff.
And just so people know at home, you might think like, oh, well, I got my 107 drone license. And this is a big step up from that in terms of what it takes to actually get that Part 137. I mean, this is a big document. A lot of legal work goes into it.
And you're basically spelling out what you want to do. And currently, they again, going back to people that might not know, the FAA has a way for people to get certified for manned aviation to basically become a crop duster, but they don't really have necessarily a form that says, here's what you need for a drone in order to be a crop duster for drone.
Right.
So that is why we put in a petition and we ask for certain exemptions from the manned aviation rule, because either it doesn't apply to drones or, it's different from a manned aviation. It's basically, they're not apples to apples necessarily.
Of course. Yeah, exactly. So do you want to get into this PDF a little bit? And
and really the PDF, this is on the FAA website. So essentially you could probably look for, if you guys email us or whatever, we can certainly send this to you, but it's on. This is not something we did.
Right.
This is something the FAA
on the FAA
did. So
website.
It's FAA Fact.
All right, I'm going to pull it up for you right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
so you can kind of see in the top left-hand corner, it'll say FAA-2007-0001, So you can probably search for that, or you can just search how to submit a petition for rulemaking exemption PDF.
Yeah.
So you get it down in here, and these are the table of contents, what your petition should contain. For petition for rulemaking, what it should contain if it's a petition for exemption. If you have a petition that you need to have it reconsidered, maybe it was denied because you had something missing. And then submitting a petition for a new docket. So that's basically you're just starting out. Whether it's under 55 or over 55, it's a brand new docket. This hasn't been assigned a docket number yet.
Right.
So
okay.
And then existing dockets, you basically have your docket, and you can then add to that once you have a docket number.
Okay.
But so it's kind of going. It's kind of weird because when we sent it before, you'd almost kind of send it, and it seemed like went off into the ether.
Right.
And you didn't really know
if they were going to ever answer you or not.
Yeah. You would get maybe an email saying that we've got it, but sometimes it wasn't immediate, So this is a little bit more. It's definitely giving you more information. It's kind of spelling it out for you. So I do think this is a good thing.
Definitely something people should check out. If you're thinking of doing the 137, then this is something that I think people are going to want to read. Right? They're going to want to read it because now get ready because it's a lot of information. Right?
I mean, and it's not horrible because this is, this is just the PDF to submit all the PDFs that you wrote.
Yes,
essentially,
right,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
It's basically, this is where it goes, you know. But it's kind of interesting. We talk about this a lot. It says here you must send a petition for exemption 120 days before you need the exemption. Obviously, I would add maybe a few more months to that too.
Yeah.
But this is what they're trying to do, and this is kind of what we've said. They're trying to get this stuff looked at, approved or denied within 120 days.
Yeah.
And if you send in your petition, and let's say you just have a petition, most likely they're going to come back once they get that petition, and they're going to ask you for a request for information, because they want not just the petition itself, but they want 3 other documents: operating, training. How are you going to train your pilot and commands, your visual observers, anybody else that might be part of your program,
sure.
your flight
operation,
program, right? And then finally the kind of safety case. How are you going to mitigate How are you going to mitigate risk? When you're operating.
Yeah. So if something happens, if something goes wrong, if somebody ends up in the flight path that is not supposed to be there, what are you going to do? How are you going to stop the drone? How are you going to make this, potentially dangerous situation a little safer?
Yeah.
Real quick, I just wanted to say, I'm going to put this up real quick for you. So obviously the FAA is where you go for the document Michael's talking about, but for sort of a more, let me do this, sort of a more baseline idea of how to get started in drones, spraying drones for agriculture. Go to our website, aerialinfluence.com/agriculture. You'll get sort of an easier version to understand, and it's an easy, simple step-by-step to go. Whereas this is probably a little more complicated, than...
Well, and really this is so what we have, the journey map, is kind of like the ball of like, okay, this is why you're doing this. This is why the FAA wants you to do this, and it basically comes down to safety. Are you qualified? Do you have the certifications, that kind of stuff, to do the operation that you want to do?
Right.
And we give links at the bottom to the FAA, that kind of stuff. So the first part is basically us kind of saying this is what you're going to kind of go through.
Right.
Again, you've got multiple people looking at these things. They're looked at on a case-by-case basis. Different people could be looking at your stuff. Now they do have like a guideline for what they're asking for, but we've even seen discrepancies from stuff that we've put into people that we've worked with, and it's almost identical. And our operations, and sometimes they'll ask,
it'll be a little different,
and somebody will ask something a little bit different. So with that in mind, our document gives you some resources. It gives you kind of an idea of what you're going through. We obviously can help with the whole process.
Sure.
This piece was put out. Once you get all your stuff, where does it go?
Yeah.
Where do I go from there? And this is good.
Okay.
But I don't think we necessarily should go over everything, because this is really something. It's nice. It's like there's some reading, but there's a lot of pictures in here too. So it's nice. It kind of it's not a picture book, but makes it as simple as makes a hard process a little more simple.
A little more simple. And that's the thing I think people need to understand probably, is that if you're trying to, we're in April of 2022. Yeah. So if you're trying to plant, or if you're trying to do stuff with drones, spray with drones in a couple months, it's going to be really tough, and you're likely not going to get this in time. Yeah. This is something you need to plan for the next planting season. Right. And it takes a lot of time. And like we said, this is not just a document you download and then you fill out some stuff and send it in and they approve it. This is something that can take 120 days plus just to get the FAA to respond to you at that point, so it's a long process, and I think that's the number one thing that people need to know. Yeah,
they have to plan way in advance.
Got to plan way in advance.
You could also have, you could start, you could say, I want to do this, and you could go out and buy an under 55-pound drone. Yeah. And if you have something where you can use, say like seeds or something, or overseeding, or cover crop, You could get started, sooner, because that's not necessarily using restricted use pesticides and spray and everything.
Yeah, as long as it's under 55.
As long as it's under 55.
Right.
Yeah. So there are ways to start to kind of use this type of drone, but you can't necessarily use it fully because they want.
Because there are legalities.
And you're basically in the airspace. That's one, and you also have a pesticide or something that could obviously cause harm to something else.
Yeah.
So there's kind of two big reasons why they want people to be certified. And
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be weird if they didn't want people to be certified.
Right. Yeah.
Please go fly your
Sign
fully
up.
loaded 150-pound drone or whatever,
Right.
and spray over things.
Yeah.
There are a lot of that. So my thing was the most important thing is to, plan ahead. What do you think after that? What's the most important thing people need to know? And you guys, please send us some questions. Keep us going here. We're always open to throwing some question and answers out there.
I mean, obviously the first step is figuring out what you're getting into.
Right.
Because we talk to a lot of people and they've got great ideas on how they want to use this or, whatever it is. But the bottom line is, if you're going to try to make this thing scale, you're going to want to have your ducks in a row, the legalities and a plan. So, one would be do the 107.
Mm-hmm.
We've always talked about, possibly a cheaper practice drone, or a used drone that you can just kind of get some stick time on.
Yeah.
There's other ways that you can get into agricultural drones without necessarily having to do the spraying portion, because you've got multispectral, you've got mapping, you can do elevation type stuff.
Right.
There's all kinds of stuff like that, and then even seeding, because you're not necessarily using a pesticide or something. It's just kind of a seed. But 107 I would say is a big one.
Number one.
Planning. If you're going to do spraying, then you have to start thinking about like the 137 stuff. So you want to start thinking about how you're going to use it, where you're going to use it, who's going to be on the team, how is your like day going to look,
right?
And how are you going to operate, mitigate the risk while you're flying, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And know if you've got a customer base. If you're going to get a customer base,
that's true.
Because the last thing that we want and the last thing that you want is to buy like this really expensive spraying drone and then have it sitting in your garage waiting for somebody to call you for a job. Right. That's the kind of work you need to do ahead of time. It's be out talking to farmers saying, hey, do you have a use for this? If so, what would you pay for it?
And actually going along with that, I talked to someone a while ago, and he was actually out of the country, but he had hooked up with a farmer, someone that owned land. I forget exactly what they were growing, but their deal was, there was no necessarily upfront payment, and this is hard, but it could actually be even better if you're working with someone and say, look, I'm getting into the spraying drone. I'd like to, help you with your farm, with your spraying, that kind of stuff. And essentially, he gets paid based on how much he saves the farmer.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Whether it's saving the farmer or increasing the farmer's yield, that's kind of how he gets paid. So that's another way that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, because a lot of people think about like the hourly or for the day or something like that. But, this is a way that you could potentially sell someone that may think,
drones.
This is, and maybe you don't want to necessarily hook up with someone that, is thinking, I don't know if this is going to work. But, talking to someone, this could definitely work, and our payment could be based on
how much you've saved me this year.
Or increased my yield.
Yeah.
So,
and we've said this before, but as it stands now, these drones, although they're getting bigger and bigger, they're really more for spot spraying. And that's why we've always said that it would be smart if crop dusters or aerial applicators would actually start using drones, because they could get the spots that they weren't able to get with an airplane. So yeah, that's
and they're in the best situation because they already have an operations plan.
They have the clientele already.
They have the clientele.
Yeah.
But they already have what their day-to-day looks like. It's just now they're not going to be in the cockpit, and they're going to be, they're going to be a ground station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
But,
so go ahead.
I'm pretty much done with that. But I did. I got two more things. But go ahead.
No, please.
They're different though. But yeah. So
I'll pull it up here on the screen for you.
So one thing that DJI is going to start implementing, and you guys can obviously check out this website, but it's a beta version of essentially DJI Tara, and Tara is the mapping software that you can use, with the Phantom 4 RTK, the Phantom 4 multispectral, the M300, probably soon the M30. Basically this will stitch any pictures that have the lat long GPS coordinates.
Oh, very cool.
But in addition to just stitching 3D or 2D or 2D multispectral, or doing waypoints or whatnot, this can also help you plan for your spraying and spreading operations. And you can also, when you use it with the multispectral, you can actually do variable rate. So and that kind of goes to the whole spot spraying idea.
Not every spot needs the same amount of spray.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So, anyways, this is going to be, it's a personal beta version. It's available for free right now. I don't really know. We don't necessarily know what the cost is going to be. I would assume if you're, there's Drone Deploy. They're kind of completely cloud-based. That's another mapping, stitching program. You got Pix4D. They have both now. They've got a desktop version and the cloud version. And now DJI realizes the importance of possibly having a cloud-based version too, because somebody can, just for the simple fact of, think about, you've got a team, and you're going out, and David has to go and fly the 5 fields before I can go in and spray the 5 fields. So maybe you're doing the photogrammetry and everything for the 5 fields before I even get in there, because it's kind of like the scouting and all that kind of stuff. And it could be nice because somebody could be putting that up on the cloud, and then I can then download that file or mission and import it.
Yeah. We had some issues with our
fresh streaming
TV that was behind us, but I just turned it off. How's that?
Yeah. I think the ultimate features are going to be more than this, but the features available in the trial version are the cloud processing for flat field, orchard, and multispectral. Field management, I don't exactly know what that entails. Elevation analysis, that's kind of nice, because then you kind of get an idea of how the ground might be changing because of planting and plowing, all that kind of stuff. The variable rate prescription maps, the VRA, mission planning, and ortho base map sharing to AgRAS app. So I'm assuming that's going to be kind of like you can, like if you did the map, then I could download it at another date or off different site that you're at. So, and that's about it.
You said did you have one more thing?
I do. No? Yeah, 1 second. And this might go kind of along with what you were wanting to talk about too, but DJI also came out with Flight Hub 2. And they are also doing a beta. And this is the DJI Flight Hub 2 site, so it actually has about 6 tutorials on here. You can actually I think we have something else. Actually, this right now, the beta is only going to be working with the Matrice 300 RTK. Also, you know, the smart controller for the 300 and the H20 series camera.
We should explain to people what Flight Hub is, what it does.
I mean, it's kind of a drone management platform.
Right.
So you could have somebody out in the field flying a mission. Let's say they're inspecting a tower. From there, you can actually send that feed to Flight Hub,
right.
And then somebody in a remote location can actually look at that.
Yep.
I'm sure this is kind of where everything is going to be
it's
going.
heading, yeah.
You know, it's going to be. I mean, you know, if you just look at the M30, you know,
right.
There's one thing where you can get the M30 with the box.
Yes.
You know, it charges, opens it up. You're going to be able to, you know, once BV loss comes up, I'm going to be able to basically go, okay, you know what, I need to fly the construction site, you know,
right.
today. So, you know, you do that. And I could just see people sitting there managing multiple construction sites from basically one laptop.
Their desk.
Yeah, but it could be 12 M30s, you know, or whatever the drone is, you know, across, you know, the United States.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, very interesting.
Yeah. So maybe we might be getting into beyond visual line of sight
at some point,
exemptions and waivers.
Probably will be at some point.
Right.
So speaking of,
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. This is available. I think top free public beta. I think if you tap that, I'm off. But
you're offline.
Yeah. So basically, you can tap that. You'll probably fill out some information, and then you can get started. At least to try it out.
So to talk about Flight Hub, then you got to go sort of right into a couple of other things. So the Matrice 300 just got a big firmware update, and the biggest thing on this update is really battery related. So the first thing they did is they updated the default periods for self-discharge to 2 days. So basically what that means is the battery, you know, if it's fully charged, after a certain point, it's going to start dissipating its battery, and that's to help save the overall life of the battery.
Yeah.
Well, before it was several days,
Okay.
and now it's only 2 days, and they believe that's going to elongate the life of these
Really?
batteries, which we've seen some issues with the M300 batteries.
Yeah.
You know, with a couple of customers who have had them that can't charge it above 50% or
yeah,
issues like that.
And it's also hard too to figure out because you don't know necessarily how because everybody kind of handles their batteries differently. You know? Some people constantly have them charged or constantly so yeah.
They leave them on all the time. So there's different ways to do it, but this is hopefully going to save some battery life.
Are they saying you can still make it? Because I know you could change the dissipation period.
Yes, and you can.
They're just shortening
your ability to go to 2 days.
Okay,
so
that's cool.
So that's good. The other thing with this firmware upgrade for the batteries is it's not going to let you fly below 10 degrees Celsius. So basically that is because the colder your batteries get, and I'm sorry, it's if your batteries are that cold. If your batteries are 10 degrees Celsius,
it won't start heating up.
It'll
just
can't
say,
fly. They're not going to let you fly because that is going to increase your chances of a battery failure. And nobody wants a battery failure. So that's a big deal.
And they have come a long way because I remember putting the M600 up in the air in like 2016 or 17, and I think it was October or something like that. It wasn't that cold, you know.
Yeah.
It was maybe low, like 50. Something like that, and it was not allowing me to take off.
It wouldn't let you go.
But you know, those are much older batteries.
Yeah. Holden, I'm going to get to your question in 1 second. We've got one other thing we wanted to talk about. That is the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. They got an update as well.
Oh, nice.
And the big update on this one, because people were really upset about this since it's come out, is the fact that when you zoom in, it's got a 32 times zoom on it. And when you zoom in and take a picture,
it looks beautiful.
In the past, you would get that picture completely zoomed out. You wouldn't get the picture the way you shot it.
Then you had to crop it in post.
And then you had to crop it in yourself in post. Well, now finally they have allowed that. So you take the picture zoomed in, you're going to get the picture on your SD card zoomed in, just the way you shot it. So that was a big one. Okay, let's get to a question here. So Holden Reed, you'll see it there on the bottom of your screen. Can a person submit one petition for multiple exemptions, or do they have to submit one petition for each exemption?
No, yeah. So, well, let's see, multiple exemptions. So there's about, you can have your petition for exemption. So in our case, there were probably 12 or 13 items that needed to be exempted because either it didn't pertain to a drone, or or it was different altogether or something, or not needed. And we've talked about this probably 100 times. Like one of them was seatbelt.
Right.
You exempt for a seatbelt because obviously drone doesn't need a seatbelt. And things like having your operating documents and everything in the plane. There's nowhere to put it in the drone.
Yeah.
So I think what you're asking is basically what we did when we did the petition. There were several items that needed to be exempted, whether it was from the 107 side or the 137 side for like under 55, and then there's like 107, 137, 61, or 91, right. I think for over 55. So yeah, you're asking for several things to be exempted within that petition. But if you're doing an exemption for under 55 and you also want to do for over 55, we had to submit two separate ones because they were asking for different things, because once you get to over 55, you're kind of in a different category. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. What if you just put a seatbelt on a drone and just said, hey, we've fulfilled our requirement?
Then I guess you wouldn't have to do the exemption.
I guess
for that particular one.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I don't.
No, we should put a tiny seatbelt on there.
Right? Why not? I like that idea. All right, so I think that's all we got. We've gone almost a half hour. Holden, I hope we answered your question. Stefan, thank you as usual for coming by. And everybody, Jonathan Tiberius Pap, thank you, and Sejik 4702. You're the man. Thank you. And Holden Reed says thank you.
Also, regarding the Flight Hub 2 beta, you can go to https://fh.dji.com. So that's basically for test details, and
you'll have to read it for one more time.
So it's so essentially it's fh.dji.com. Put the https if it doesn't work with just fh.dji.com.
You got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
We've reached our half-hour limit.
All right. Good job.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel and always supporting us. Like we said, we don't have this gigantic channel, but it's growing, but for the people that do watch us and the people that do join us, especially for this kind of stuff, they're very dedicated. So thank you so much. Guys. We appreciate you stopping by, and say goodbye, Michael.
All right. Goodbye, Michael.
All right. Goodbye.